Good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of Mary's Book Club. Today we're going to be reviewing The Wife Before by Shannora Williams. The reason I chose to read this book was because I was on TikTok actually, and I saw the author read a line from one of the pages, and I was like hooked and I was intrigued, and I was like, you know what? Let me just see what this is all about. So I thought I'd do this review from my reading corner, my reading nook, if I may. I read a lot on the balcony in this egg chair, and I just thought that this would be ideal just to kind of talk to you guys about what I thought about the book in general. I know I said I was done with fictional, but this book really intrigued me. And it didn't seem like the typical romance novels that I said I'm trying to stay away from. So I thought this would be just the perfect sweet spot. So this is a psychological thriller. It's about a girl who ends up marrying a famous golfer, and she finds out some things about him that she pretty much spends the entire book trying to solve. And I might end up spoiling it. I don't remember what all I highlighted. So if you haven't read the book, skip to this part where I summarize and rate the book. Okay, let's jump into the quote. "He's going to kill me. There was a time when I would never have thought such awful thing about him. He's not the man I assumed he was. He's different now. Or maybe he's not different at all. And this is how he's always been. Those eyes that used to look at me so lovingly now stare back at me like dark coals. The soft lips that would tenderly kiss mine, I haven't felt on my skin in ages. During late nights when I walk around the mansion, I feel the constant urge to look over my shoulder. Nights like tonight, as I pack my suitcase and then stuff my feet into my shoes, I'm well aware of the footsteps thundering through the hallways. He's prowling. He hates me and he wants me gone. He's told me so many times before. But like I said, a woman scorned is no joke. She had a mission, and that mission was to save up enough money for us to have a cushion and for her children to go to college. She had accomplished that mission too, but it didn't come without repercussions. She had a stroke when she was 49, passed away at 52. She had been gone for 7 years now, but the emotion of that loss still lingers. Everyone who spoke at her funeral talked so fondly about how hard she worked, how dedicated she was, but they didn't see what I saw. They didn't see Mama coming home at midnight or later, bone-tired with bags under her eyes. They didn't wake up to hear her crying at night, asking God how she was going to make it. Mama never did love again. She hooked up here and there, yes, and always tried to hide it, but she didn't fall for anyone. She just worked, constantly, always missing my band practices or Cal's football games. Not there as often to brush my hair or even help me pick up a prom dress. Sadly, my brother is following in her footsteps, working extra hours and constantly on the move. I worry for him, and that worry is probably why I refuse to stress myself out overworking. A job is a job, and money is only an object. Sure, it's nice to have money, but people, Americans especially, have become so numb to working. They get up at the same time every day, slave away for hours, mentally drain themselves, and for what? Also, some rich corporate man can sit in his big mansion and watch the numbers climb in his bank account. I don't mind working for what I need, and I don't blame the rich for being rich. After all, we all have our roles and must play them. It's the circle of life. But my problem with it all is that my mother allowed money to be her end all, and I refuse to follow in those footsteps. She raised me and Kel to work hard for what we wanted, no matter how hard life became. But I could never wrap my mind around such a mentality. Why kill myself over a check that wouldn't even last a week? Why trudge through muddy waters when there were so many other options? Here's the thing about me. I have a bad habit of not thinking things through. I can be both impulsive and impatient, and I get overly excited about the smallest things. So imagine what it's like when a big event or opportunity turns up in my life. Because of this little personality quirk of mine, I don't always make the best decisions. Therefore, when Roland asked me to marry him 5 months after moving in with him, I said yes. Seriously, I wasn't thinking. He and I were traveling together, and I was attending events as his plus one, despite the negativity he had received due to his previous wife's death. It was hard for many to lose respect for Roland, and he was still a man in demand. Prior to losing her, he had created his own children's charity, donated to good causes abundantly, and hung out with very famous people. Not to mention he was worth a lot of money. And according to Roland, it didn't matter what a person did wrong, money still talked, and he had a lot of it. We were living a dream, so by the time I had room to think, it was already too late. To anyone on the outside looking in, they would have called me a fool. And perhaps I was a fool in love. I don't even know why I loved Roland or why we were moving so fast, but I did. And though sometimes it didn't feel right to be going at such a fast pace, I couldn't say no to him. There was something about him that intrigued me, lured me in. Whether it was fast or not, I needed this. I had no place to stay and no job, and he was willing to provide it all for me. There was no way I was going to reject it. It only took one morning kiss and Roland's hands on my hips to forget about my doubts and worries and realize that I would be okay in his hands. He was willing to give me everything I ever wanted. All I had to do was become brave enough to take it. Ladies and gents, this book is so good. I mean, of course I wanted to be with him. Sure, I loved his money and his cars and the way he spoiled me. Hell yes, I love the sex, the candlelit dinners, and our endless conversations. But I was sure there was more to Roland that I didn't know. And I had a feeling I was going to learn all of it in that mansion. Okay, so far I'm not spoiling it. That's great. I opened the drawer to look for my toner and shuffled around for cotton pads. My finger landed on something cold and hard and I picked it up. It was a gold earring, a dangly one with the shape of a dove on the end. I blinked twice as I studied the earring, knowing damn well it wasn't mine. It had to be Melanie's. I sighed, carrying it to a container on a shelf on the wall and tossing it in there. Knowing her stuff was still lingering in this house, hiding in some of the nooks and crannies was bothersome. His first wife was still lingering around, staking claim not only of the home, but Roland too. He loved Melanie. I could tell. It hurt him to talk about her, and that pain cut him deep. So deep that I was sure when he felt it, his only wish was to see her again. How the hell was I supposed to compete with that? How was I supposed to be better than the wife before? His confidence was delicious. I swallowed it down like fine wine, absorbed the encounter in my mind to replay for the rest of the night, and sure enough, he did win. And when he did, he didn't wait around to take pictures, didn't stop to talk or speak or celebrate with his peers. He came straight to the back of the hotel, found me fixing the display table, and spun me around with his trophy in hand. And then he said, "Told you I'd win." And he kissed me, just like that, right in front of every person who'd watched him play, every sports journalist, because they'd all followed him inside too, every staff member. And that's when I fell in love with him. He was so bold, so daring, so confident, so perfect. And he was one hell of a kisser. That night, he took me to dinner and he used his prize money on me. And then the tournament was over and he had to go home. His home, all the way in Colorado. It felt strange sitting in the waiting room in front of Dr. Walden's office. I had my Chanel bag in the middle of my lap and my cell phone in hand. I checked the time on my phone and it was 7 minutes past my appointed time. I wanted to get up and leave right away. Forget all about coming here. I wasn't crazy. Seeing a therapist was crazy. I remember my mother always saying therapy was for the weak, that Black people, and especially Black women, didn't need a therapist because we were strong. According to my mother, Black women carry generations of burdens on our backs and we're powerful for it. Fighting our tears, fighting others' battles, having others step on our backs just so they can climb to the top. But why was it that in this moment I felt weak? I felt broken down and like I couldn't go on anymore. And if anyone were to step on my back again, I would break in half. Clearly, my mother was wrong. And that was all that I highlighted, ladies and gents. This book was so good. I read it along with someone I work with, and then we were having like a mini powwow about it. She finished before I did, and she said she didn't like the ending. So I was looking forward to rolling my eyes and just being over it. But I surprisingly loved the way the book ended. Without further ado, I'm just gonna rate it. It was an absolute 5 out of 5 for me. Like, it gave me just everything that I would look for in a fictional book that was written about love. This is how I want love stories to be written. These are the type of books that I can get into. I don't know about you, but I'm personally over the traumatized boy, famous athlete with all these issues rhetoric. I'm over that narrative that she has to sit here, wait on him, fight for him, prove her love to him, get her, like, meanwhile, he chases her first, right? It always starts with the guy chasing her, and then he flips on her, and she's got it. Like, that entire avoidant male character, we can just end it. Like for me, I was over it. And that's what I thought the book was going to be about. She writes it almost like it's going to be that. But I promise you, if you're like me and you're over that, that's not what this book is. I recommend it for women all over. And I love that it's not even written so racially driven. Like besides that last quote that I read, I didn't know the book was about a black woman or a black man. It was just about characters, right? But obviously it gave it that extra touch to know that it was written about black love, but it didn't carry the same struggle love rhetoric. And like, for that alone, she gets a 10 out of 5 in my book. What did you think of the book if you read it as well? Per usual, I'll have links for the book, paperback or hard copy, in the description down below, as well as Audible and the Kindle version if it's available. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next month on Mary's Book Club. Bye now.